Hello, everybody. This is Jim McCleary at McGolf doing What's in My Drawers. And What's in My Drawers is a golf talk. We're going to talk about golf equipment, golf fittings, golf repairs, golf equipment opinions. How it got started was we being old clubmaker types, tend to be humongous pack rats. And we started with, well, what was in my drawers? And we've since evolved into a international group of people that have questions, and it's been my pleasure to hold this every Monday at 17:30 Eastern Time. So if this is your first time out, please put that down, and we'll meet every time right in this time frame. So as we get started in the last couple of one of these, what we do is we give a little shout out to some of the winners. And let's give Carlos Ortiz a shout, winning the Houston Open, the Vivint Houston Open at a -13, followed by a Dustin Johnson and Hideki Matsuyama at -11. Now, why is that important? Because Carlos Ortiz had a lead going into the fourth round. However, Dustin Johnson went -5 and Hideki Matsuyama went -7 on the final round. So in order to win by that margin, Carlos Ortiz had to go -5 as well. And there was a whole bunch of people that went -5, -7, -5, -7, all the way throughout the leaderboard. So, everybody had to have their foot on the gas. Now, give a little bit of shout out to my friends across the way, the Aphrodite Hills Cyprus Showdown. Robert McIntyre of Scotland won it with -7. So apparently it was pretty rough going, because the top three, Masahiro and Hjords from Japan, and I believe that's Spain, all were -6, -7, -6, -5. But that was their total. So that meant going through to the final round, they were all even. So they all had to go low to make that go. And lastly, but not least, and I want you to hear some of the names, the Charles Schwab Cup Championship, okay? The guy that won it was Kevin Sutherland. You don't hear that name too often, but Kevin Sutherland won at -15, and apparently in a playoff with Paul Broadhurst, an Englishman. And then Woody Austin. Now I want you to hear some of the names that were on this name that was on here, and tell me if you recognize Bernard Longer, Freddie Couples, Retief Goosen, Ernie Els, Paul Goidos, Corey Pavin, Tom Lehman, Mark O'Mara, Jim Furyk, Jerry Kelly, Rod Pampling, Jose Maria Olazabal, Steve Flesh, Kenny Perry, Mark Brooks, Billy Mayfair, Lee Jansen, David Toms, Bob Estes, Fred Funk. And this is just not more than a handful of years ago. This is stuff that you would have seen on the PGA Tour. And all these guys are going pretty low. And, Scott Verplank, if I go to the very bottom, John Daly. And he left early. So that was those. So good for them, right? Good for them. Glad that they can extend their golfing careers. All righty. So I don't know about you, but the weather here in Southern Ohio has been phenomenal, right? It's been like the perfect golf season. You would have thought this was just between spring and summer, with lows in the upper 40s and highs into the mid-70s. It's been climbing 30 degrees difference. And apparently the golf courses played it correctly and laid down a bunch of fertilizer and got rain, and now we got this temperature, and everything is so green. I only took a few pictures, but I want you to see where I had to go. That's the first tee at a municipal golf course here. That thing is massive. It's the JC's in Chillicothe. Just love this. That is just such a good look. You got all that green is still around in November. Then we get another look at it. And this is on the back nine. I mean, it's just something else to behold. So my dad and I went there, and then we went into Crown Hill, which was in a phenomenal shape, which is about, let's say, 30 miles away. Just wonderful. So if you guys are in Ohio and you're looking for a place, I would recommend either one of those highly. Now, last but not least, at least as far as builds, I wanted to show everybody this, in that I had a couple of builds. One was for Cal. He's in Pennsylvania, and we made a set of Mizunos for him. It was a mix set, which is going to be very, very popular this year. And we went with some Hot Metal Pro, Hot Metal Pros, and then Forge clubs. And then he had some the 919s, I believe, wedges. The one before that, sorry, the S18s, wedges the year before. So I had to reshaft these, and we had to build these. And this is what I want to talk about a little bit today. We used his, he sent some of those custom ferrules, the B2B ferrules, and they just turned out really, really well. I'm happy with those, and we'll talk more about that. But this was a surprise. I was able to make a Halo, the launcher Halo, a 2 for a friend, and it's a good-looking club. You get to see Aaron in the background. But it turned out it was a really, really good head. 18, it's a good shape. It's definitely easy to look at. Okay. So on the other build for Cal, so a couple of things that came into play. Number one, he's a shorter guy and with longer arms, so that really puts him at a disadvantage as far as getting, standard length clubs. And he was fit to a 37.25 finish length, which typically means you're going to start at 37 inches. That is typically an inch under standard. When you're an inch under standard, then swing weights start to become a problem, right? And I've talked about that in other videos. And so when you get a shorter length is going to be crucial for swing weight, right? Because it's 3 swing weight points per half inch. So there's 6 swing weight points there. Plus the shaft is going to be somewhere in the range of 30 to 35 grams lighter, which is 3 and 4 swing weight points there. And then the grip is going to be lighter, which gives us a little bit back. But this one was actually kind of standard because it had cord in it. So we were working at a massive disadvantage. Oh, and the heads were light too. And that's just typical Mizuno. And the heads were light. So I had to put in some weight. Otherwise, they would have been just this crazy low weight. And I put in a 10-gram weight, which is the biggest thing that was available to me. It was the flexible tungsten weight. And I got him to come up. And so what I convinced Cal into is 3/8 inch increments instead of half inch increments. And that way it would start a little bit light at the top and then get heavier as you go, which kind of works out when you think about longer clubs and then heavier or the shorter clubs. And then I got everything from a C8 all the way up to a D0. So I got close. I didn't quite get that mark, but it was just made of unobtainium. And what we used, and other than those heads, is we used the Mitsubishi OTI 95. Now, this is a unique little shaft. I'm kind of intrigued with it. It's going to play soft, I think, but at least it's a little bit butt soft, I would say. But the distribution of the weight is very, very linear. And I really think it's going to turn out to be something else. It comes in a parallel, and it also comes in a taper tip. And there's a difference between the two, which would lead me to think that maybe the taper tip might be a tad stiffer. But it's a good look. This, if you look right here, we're at the top. This is the where the logo is. That's all the logo. So it's not very obtrusive for those guys that are not logo-like. They don't like that, or you could use that. Then in the wedges, I used the Modus. We went with the Modus wedge shafts. Very good shaft, I think. And then we used the Golf Pride MCC4 undersized. Then finally, and I thought this was kind of cool, he sent me some woods to work on. So I've got a Callaway, a Mizuno, and another Callaway. And then I was able to use an Acra Tour Z, an Acra FX 2.0, and then a Valix shaft. The Valix shaft has that multicolored shaft that changes color when you turn it. And if you've been around here any long, I like the Acra shaft. I've currently got this guy in my driver right now. A little bit closer look. They cleaned up very, very well. A little bit closer look at the shafts. Okay, so there was the builds. Now, this is here's a first I have an email from Frank, and he's from France, best I can figure. And he's asking me, uh, what belts do I use for iron shafts and graphite shafts, and basically for finishing and stuff like that. So basically, it's what do I use on my belts, right? So I brought some new ones. All right. So we call it for shaft tip prep. All right. Shaft tip prep. I use this. This is a 100 grit. You can use 120, but I use 100. And the 100 grit basically makes the shaft work. I'm sorry, let's start over. The 100 grit really gets into the steel shaft. It creates a good low polish and a surface that is very coarse for the epoxy to grip. And then when I go in on the graphite, I use it very lightly, okay, very lightly, in order to get that same thing. If you lean into this, it'll take off a quarter inch in no time flat. So you got to be very light in your touch in order to get rid of that. And then what happens eventually is the grit actually gets a little smoother and you can lean into it a little bit more. But that everything I need for any kind of removal, I will use that, unless I'm doing sole grinds, and that's on a whole different machine. But this was just for shafts, right? Then it was for what do you use for the ferrules? And of course, you guys have ever seen one of my ferrules. I don't use these anymore. These are paper belts. All right, and this is what I used for a long time. These are paper belts, and you can see it. Tells you which way for it to go, both ways. And I've used these for a while, but on steel, no problem. However, what it'll do is on some of the 1x42s, it rounds or it pulls up, and you get this. It'll start doing this where the edge goes up, and when the edge goes up, it creates an edge, and it can cut into the paint. Now, it's not damaging per se structurally, but it just doesn't look good, and that's the reason why I went to this guy. And this is a felt belt. And the felt belt, it removes the ferrule and it trims it right down in no time flat. It leaves a smooth finish that you can hit with a little bit of acetone and give it a real professional look, and away you go. Now, they used to come in blue, and now they're in black. I think I like the blue better if you ever see them out there. They seem to last a little bit longer, and you can tell when they're wearing a little easier. As opposed to these guys. When you get on these, it starts eating ferrule like right now, and so it's a pretty good combination. And I have two machines, so I don't have to switch them out. However, switching them out is not a real big deal. So Frank, if you're watching and you're from France and you're hearing it, there's your answer. I hope it got it to you. All righty. Now, I know Matt's in here. We're going to start with Matt, but here we go. There's Daniel. Hello there, sir. All right. Warren Slick. Northeast Missouri. Here we go. You ordered your stroke lab number 7. There you go, man. Good job. Like to see that kind of stuff. Yeah, the flow neck, you just basically got the best of both worlds, man. Well done. Lombard's back. Dude, Palm Beach, Florida. Well done. Enjoy the weather. Hopefully you get a lot of golf in, right? The Odyssey Tank 7 putter, 30-gram counterweight. I am a terrible putter that weight. All right, Jack, you use the Tank 7, which is heavy, with that 30-gram counterweight. You're a terrible putter. What weight would you suggest for a counterbalance? I usually putt long. I am on a Stimp 11. So Stimp 11 is right there on the brink of being fast, right? It's just pretty quick. And heavier putters have been that slow you down. That was the whole idea. Now, on this one, if you're talking about terrible putter and you're just missing the hole, it could be you're not seeing the line. I would have somebody stand behind you and make sure that your eye is kind of over the ball or slightly to the inside. Over really doesn't work. It only works for a select few people in order to see it. But over, and it's not an exact. You got to be one for one, just like that. But over the top, make sure you get to the line first, and then that will be number one. You'd be surprised what a little bit of length change does, because the Odyssey Tank 7 counterbalance came in a 38-inch, and normally what you do is you'd lock it up against your. The idea was to lock it up, or you would choke down, so you had all this extra weight. Well, if you grab in different spots, you don't get that. You don't get that advantage. So I would look at that first. If you're looking to make it heavier, they certainly make more heavier weights out there. 110. I mean, you can go if you're trying to reduce shake, then I would go up. The Balance Certified makes what they would call a number 7 or an 11, a 70 gram and a 110 gram. And I would try. I don't want you getting too heavy, but a good 7 or even a 9 would work as well, and you might try that. But you'd have to take out this 30 grammer to go up some, which in case you may have to go and you have to change out the grip for sure. Yep. There's Matt. Okay, so Matt Revelock he's from he's from Cleveland, and he came down to visit, and he's visited a few times. So he, good guy, just loves golf. Bigger guy. He's on one of my other videos, and has a very abbreviated swing and can still get it out there. And we were working a little bit on extending the swing, and we put on, and because he's got big hands, right? And he wanted to take some more right hand out. So we already had him in jumbo grips. So we went to jumbo max grips, the small ones. And they seemed to help him out, give him a bit more lever so that there was weight in the back. And he also tested the new Mizuno ES, I believe they're AS21 wedges. It's kind of a forged hollow body wedge, and he actually enjoyed the wide sole and used the bounce to get into it, and it was hitting some very, very good shots. It's surprised. So they're not necessarily surprised. I would have thought maybe he would have liked the other sole better, which was in comparison narrow, but in relationship to everybody else's maybe a tad wider. The thing with the ES wedge is that the center of gravity's moved up in it. If I had it, do I have one? Nope, it's out. It's out in the shop. Okay, so anyway, hit him, and we did that. So we talked about wedges and things like that, and we also talked about the grips and how to get through the ball and just all kinds of stuff. It was a really good visit. I really, really wanted to keep him a little bit longer, but he had a meeting or dinner meeting with some family up in Columbus, so never get in the way of family. And so that was pretty good. But Matt, thanks for coming down, buddy. Appreciate it. Now, Jumbo Max putter grips. Jumbo Max putter grips are very unsung in the way of putter grips. Okay, they are extraordinarily nice. They have 3 models that I'm aware of, maybe 4, and they originally started out, and it was, you ever what, those like tiger shark type? There's just that monstrously large, but it had a shape that was kind of shaped as a shield. It went straight across the flat and then came down and came to a point. They took that shape, made it a tiny bit smaller. Man, it was well accepted. And it has the same kind of texture as the new grips have, kind of that quilted or quilted feel. And they have that. And they've got some other ones. They got some longer ones now, like Bryson's using, the big long one that puts on that sick putter. He's got those going. And just so definitely they are certainly something to look after. All righty. Joey, how are you, sir? Galway, nice. Yeah. Alistair McKenzie. I've read a book by Alistair McKenzie, and the one how he was all about where he studied over at Scotland and came back over. And he was quite the player in his own right. It's a good little book. It was one. I dig on golf history stuff, and that was just a super easy book to read. All righty. So you want to know about changing a putter shaft? How important is it to replace a broken shaft? How important is it to replace a broken straight shafted putter shaft with a putter shaft, or is it okay to replace with an iron shaft? What's the same weight and tip diameter of the shaft? Okay, Joey. So a couple of things. Let me take this off because I feel like Kilroy. All right. So putter shafts and iron shafts, you will see, particularly like in Scotty Cameron's, that a typical putter shaft won't fit. He normally uses a smaller diameter and typically something in the way of a taper tip. And a common usage was something like an extra stiff 9-iron, something in that range. It would be, or even an 8, depending on what you need if it was straight in. However, if it's not that, and let's just say it's a regular putter, pick another one that takes that type, right? Whether it be a plumber's neck or even a mallet. Normally, the putter shaft has got a different profile to take on the added weight that's in a putter and not an iron. And you don't want any of that when you're doing a putter. That's why. That's the reason why you're seeing these beefy new iron shafts pop up that have got basically zero torque, because the putter is moving differently than an iron or a driver, and so they want to take all that movement out of it and put it and just allow you to putt through it. Now, can you do it? Yeah, you can do it. But I'd be really careful on length. I would want to get as close as you can to your length. So an extra stiff 9-iron, not necessarily a wedge, or an 8-iron is probably where you want to be, and then cut it down. But I would want to make sure that you're not going to cut it down past that first step, which is typically about yay long. If you're not going to cut it down past there, then I would say you'd be fine. And the reason being for that is because you need that so the grip will fit properly. So yes, you can do it at all cost. Basically at all costs, I would use a putter shaft. Number one, it's cheaper as long as you're not going exotic, and the other one is that it's one of those that's made for it. But it's not to say you can't use the other one. Hopefully that worked. And Galway, dude, that's awesome. All righty. There's Leeds. No golf here due to the lockdown. Guys, that just absolutely blows me out of the water that you have to go through that again, right? I was just reading up on that stuff because of my other job where COVID is it's a prime concern just about everywhere. And we're seeing something that Europe had the COVID changed. It evolved a little bit. I don't know what that means, but there you go. All righty. Delaware. Nice, bud. Nice. DeChambeau at the Masters. So I was listening to the XM on the way in, and they said DeChambeau was testing between a 45 and a 48-inch driver, and he was getting ball speeds of 205 mile an hour. That is just absolutely crazy. So you're going to see some shots that will just bust the tradition of Masters. You're just going to see something. And just imagine if he wins the Masters. We can get on the Masters train right now and start talking about it. I think that he is probably creating some of the most buzz for golf right now. And if you were looking for somebody, because every time Tiger gets out there, he moves the needle. And you're always looking for the second place guy. And now what we're seeing is if Bryson can keep it under control, virtually there's no golf course safe from this guy. Now, everybody's like, oh my God, but because of him, we're going to have to do all the courses. No. If you look, everybody's trying to get swing speed, aren't we all? But these guys are working at it. right? These guys are going and getting trained. They're going and working out. They're dieting. They're practicing this. This is something that, I mean, it's their job, right? And it's their job. And if you watch, yeah, they're increasing swing speed, but he's the only one that's went out and got crazy about it. So for one guy, and he's not winning everything he looks at like Tiger did in what, 2000. So, I mean, yes, I think some of the stuff he's doing is valid. I love to watch him win because I think he's very emotional about that type stuff. And now you're seeing the science come through. So he's definitely breaking barriers. I just like to see that happen. There you go. Matt, she brought it back and it was still warm in the jar. And Bill and Deb up north, well, up to our, they canned, I think it was 140 jars of apple butter, just incredible. So she brought back three, a small one I gave to my dad, and we had two big ones. I am just waiting for an excuse to throw it on some peanut butter and some bread, and it will be over. So yeah, I'm getting excited. Willard, how are you, buddy? Okay, cut a shaft or flatten a lie. Which one first? Thanks so much. Personally, just because you can't add length back on. Well, you can, but I would try a flattening of the lie first and then check your consistency. That's really because length is equal to the consistency of striking, whether it be inside or whatever, but it will be consistent. And then lie comes afterwards during a fitting. But if you already have a club and you're already, you got limited area to do or limited tools to do things, I would try and flatten it first. Nothing extreme. I wouldn't go any more than 2 degrees, and try and flatten it first. Okay. And because typically what this means is when I get questions like this is that somebody's hitting it to the inside and that flattening will pull it back out and get down to the middle, right? So if you're like this and you're hitting it here, if you flatten it out, right, it's to pull you out because your swing plane's a little flatter, and that can be caused by length because you're swinging around. Okay. Uh, the other one without cutting is that you can always choke down, right? Choke down that half an inch first, and then go play. Just don't hit one shot, hit 20 shots, and then see which one you like best. Phew. Matthew Mansbridge, well done, buddy, and on Facebook, well done, thank you. And we got look at here, Delaware, got Matthew, well done. We're seeing some folks on Facebook now. Scott, Keysport, Illinois. I've sent a message on a website about a fitting, never received return a message. There's another way to contact you. Yeah, every once in a while that thing just freaking goes crazy. Try mcgolfshop@roadrunner.com. I think Robin's probably answering you by now, but there you go. San Jose, cold and rainy. It's about time I'm in better shape than California. No more golf at Lake Tahoe unless you wear snowshoes. Nope, don't want to do that. Jersey checking in. Yeah, the guys in that one, and that was here locally, Travis. That was in the nationwide children's event, and it was now, which is now the Corn Ferry Tour, and got to meet some of those guys. They are. It's funny, you see these guys. They put on this professional face and everything, but they're normal guys when it comes right down to it, and it's fun to listen to them talk. The best thing is the difference between those guys on the Corn Ferry Tour and the guys on the PGA, honestly, is the fact that they just don't know they're that good. I mean, it's really just that simple. And once they figure it out, good night, look away. Okay. Name is Ya. I rep. Oh my gosh. See, there you go. I'm telling you, Dave. I mean, is this the craziest thing ever to see this kind of weather in our neck of the woods? It's just crazy. And the worst part about it is we're going to pay for it, right? when the winter comes around, we are just absolutely going to pay for it. Let's see. I am going to do something here. Let's just do that. There we go. There he is. There's this. I hope I'm saying this right, Frank, but near the Eiffel Tower. And I hope I got you taken care of, buddy. If you didn't see it, you came a little bit late. I'll just go real quickly because everybody else was watching it. Really? So I use the 100 grit basically on doing all my shaft prep. Now you can lean into the steel and take it off, but be very gentle with the graphite because you're just looking to take paint off. If you have the availability of this is what they call a paper belt, right? A paper belt. But you want to tape both edges because it can cut into the paint. It's not damaging, it makes it look bad. So this is what I go to in the other belt. I use this as a felt belt, a black felt belt or a blue one. And over there, you should have access. I'm not sure if there's a distributor in France, but I know there is one in England. I believe it's Diamond Tour. I think it's Diamond Tour. They're the ones that bought with Sean. Good bunch of guys, and I'm sure they'll be able to take care of you. There's Cameron. D's back. How you like that lockdown, brother? Okay, main difference between KBS and DGI. Okay. DGI, from what people have told me and what I've seen myself, is DGI, dynamic gold iron, gives you more of what you would see when you see graphs about how the ball flies. It's more of it's the arc, right? And it goes up, goes down. And where KBS tends to go up, flattens out, and then comes back down. So it tabletops is what I like calling it. The other one is I believe KBS is a bit softer in feel, right? It's not. Well, I hate I'm not putting down DGI, but it's not as harsh. Okay, and that's the reason why a lot of people have went to that. And KBS, basically, if you guys can remember the original rifle, right? The original rifle. This will have a lot of similarities to the original rifle, just has steps. So if you like that kind of flight, that kind of feel, that's where you're at. Recommend for a mid to high handicapper, I use McGregor forged irons. Nice. I do like these, but have... Okay, mid to high handicappers. So Ben, what you're looking at, McGregor forged, bud, that's been a bit, but the... depends on where. There's a lot coming out in what I would call the player's distance models. This may not be for you, but coming out, right? Coming out, Wilson is coming out with the D9, and I've seen it. And it's got offsets, got a sole, but it's a much, again, I don't know how they're doing it, but it's a much better looking club than the D7. Okay, a little bit more. They've tweak the power holes, they tweak the distribution of weight, all these different things, which would definitely be forgiving. You could be able to use something like that. In the way of New Level, right? New Level has they had the 1031. It might be out now. They have a PF2 and a PF3 and a PF1. I think the 3 is the most forgiving of the clan. If you don't like a wider sole, they would do you fine right there. And then finally, and these are because I'm carrying these, I'll let you know right now, there's 2 more. Mizuno, and they're right down the middle, if you like that, would be like a Hot Metal Pro, right? Hot Metal Pro. And in Callaway right now, there is the Maverick will continue through, the Maverick irons will continue going on through next year. And I would look at the Maverick. Now, the Maverick is going to be extraordinarily strong. You are certainly going to gain a club no matter what, and you have to get used to the new numbering. So if you hit a 7 iron a certain distance, an 8, and maybe even an 8 iron will certainly get you there, maybe even in between an 8 and a 9. So you just want to keep that there. What's the correct way to epoxy a 4 to 6 gram tip pin weight into a graphite shaft to avoid epoxy plug up the tip? Okay. So here's what I do. I should just go get it, but then I'd leave you guys. So what we're talking about is a graphite shaft tip pin. So what it looks like is, let's see, I got a pad. I just don't have a pin. Oh well. Okay, so anyway, what it looks like is you have a tip pin. So it's about something about yay long, and it's lead or brass, well, mostly lead, and with a little disc around the bottom, and the disc's width will determine the weight. The smaller the disc, the lighter the weight, right? So 4 is a smaller one. It's about that big, where the 6 might be about that big. And what happens is the graphite shaft holes, the tips, have varying sizes based on the manufacturer. That's not good, bad, or in between. That's just how they make them. Some of the holes are very, very wide, and it rattles around, and you can get stuff up in there. And the worst part, the other part is that it can also break, and then you get a shaft rattle, and that's not good at all either. So what I like to do is, if it's a wide hole, I'll wrap masking tape around it so it just fits in there. It just slides up and down. So it's not waggling in there, but it just slides right in there. And then I will put some epoxy on it and just slide it right in there, and then set it in there, and then epoxy the rest of the clubs. If it's a tight fit, I'll just epoxy the thing and make sure it's in there. So that's twofer, meaning that you don't break the tip, and you get a shaft rattle, and it stays in there. All right. Any tips on Diamond shaft I bought when you were fitting an adapter? I bought from you when fitting an adapter. Well, Diamana, if you can if it's not cut and you can see it, they typically, some of them have lines or notches on the very end, and that was typically your 12 o'clock position. Whenever you put the adapter on, the neutral setting, the neutral standard, whatever the zero setting is, goes on the bottom. Okay, it goes on the bottom. So some people like seeing the label up. So if you see the label up and this is up, then you want to put the zero down, the neutral down here. That's what I would do. All right, what do you use to get old epoxy off professionally pulled iron shafts? I recently purchased shafts from you at the sale. Hey, good deal. So I use two things. I use a knife. It's a hide knife. You can get them from Golf Works, and I scrape it off. And what I do is I kind of lead it. It's a lead lag kind of thing. So here we go. So if I was to go scraping this, and I would lead the knife. I'll use this. We'll lead the knife, and I would scrape like this. I wouldn't scrape like that, because don't scrape towards it, because you can remove layers of paint. Okay, and nobody likes removing layers of paint. The other thing is that you can do is take a light amount of sandpaper and just lightly touch it. I wouldn't go, and I mean lightly. All you're looking is remove the epoxy, not any more material. You can use the shoe shine method with some the sandpaper that comes in a belt. You can try emery cloth, right? You can try that. Oop, went all the way to the top. Brendan, pardon me. Brandon, I would love to do that if they want to send it to me. Maybe I can contact them and they will. That would be something. And that'd be neat to pull that kind of weight from a lefty point of view. There's Phil. No, I saw it on YouTube a little bit, and it was, I don't know who, I just saw like a minute of it. and I did not. It would have been interesting for sure to see, because Sir Nick is he's a field player to be sure, and you got DeChambeau just on the other end. That would have been the perfect yin and yang, right? And for you, buddy. Did I miss anything? Do I have to go back and go look at it? Because it did sound funny. Do you use the fishing line to shim between shafts and hosel if the tip is loose and fit? Any other tricks when gluing on heads? Yeah, I do. So what he's talking about is, if you've looked on some videos where I do flowing, I will take a fishing line and it comes in. It's English measurements, guys. It's 0.100 is what I'm looking for, but typically the line will come in at 0.12, which is fine. And what I'll do is I'll use that to hold the head on this shaft as kind of a dry fit, so you can flow it and you can bend it without the head falling off. Now, other people have used different things. They've used bubble wrap in order to make that happen. That's a lot of effort. When the fit is very wide, say like a taper tip going into a parallel, because I haven't used the shim yet, I'll use a rubber band. And you take a rubber band, you put it in there and you stretch it, and then you shove it down in there. That's for the dry fit. But when he's talking about when you're gluing heads on, yeah, I'll put a fishing line and just put a line straight down. I don't wrap it around. That makes it twice as big, and if not more. And so I just put it down the back and then carve off a little bit of it and make sure it stays on there. I've done that here. You know what? For the longest time, first 10 years of doing this, never once. Here in the last, I'd say the last 5, I am really, I'm really using that trick because of some of the fits that are out there. Had some in my eye. All right. Liam, I don't know if he's on steroids. It might be those 8 protein shakes he drinks a day. Good God. Those, I mean, the average bodybuilder drinks, I don't even think drinks as much as he does. In some cases, if you're his type. There you go. That's a fact. There's Robin telling you it was good. All righty, here we go. Holland, looking to get new grips. I have large hands. What would you recommend? All right, now, so Holland, again, everything is a fit. So what you're looking for is something that is going to just barely touch. These 2 fingers just barely touch, if just barely. And then on this hand, on this side, the same thing. You're getting right in there, just barely touching. Now, that's number one. That's the fit. The other one is the feel, right? If you're sweaty hands or you death grip it, you might like something firmer. If you're looking something to help you with shock, you want to go something softer, maybe a Wind, the new Super Strokes, the Jumbo Max, okay? Something in that line. And try that. Now there is a middle of the road, and Matt can talk to this one, is the CP2s. The CP2s in either the Wrap or the Pro is a softer rubber. That softer rubber gives you that. It's not as soft as maybe a Wind or any of those others, but it does have a little give to it, and it has a nicer texture, I would think, in rubber, so it lasts a bit longer. All right. Now, Matt was telling me they were slickery as all get out for him in the summer. And honestly, he is the first or second guy to tell me that in all that we've put on. So it just could be he has really sweaty hands, or the grip still wasn't big enough. We're going to find out because we put the Jumbo Max on there. So anyway, the large hands, jumbo grips to be sure. And if they're really big, like, you're looking in 2XL, 3XL type hands, then certainly the Jumbo Max. I have no problem recommending those. We got guys down here with, big monster paws, and they just huge hands. They fit in there normally. And once they get them in their hands, it's really amazing when you have a good fitting grip. Syracuse played Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Look at that. And did you get a good turnaround like we did? I just can't believe it. Peter, I think in New York is not foreign to getting a lot of snow. I just feel it coming, man. We're going to be up to our waist. Glass shafting beads. Okay, so shafting beads, they're not necessarily all glass either. They sometimes can be they call black beauty, and what that is they use it as a grit that goes in uh, the air where they strip paint. Uh, for the life of me, I'm just missing the thing, but they use it in there, and it's basically grit. Okay, and it's very small grit, much like those glass beads would be. Anyway, what it does, it gets put in the epoxy so that in that there's a .01 or a .1 difference in the hosel and the shaft, and what it does is it centers it. It centers it all the way around, so you get a good covering, and it centers it going in. Is it an absolute necessity to do that? No, it's just one more way that you're just tweaking that thing way down to the nth degree. Sorry about that. So, Brendan, your son's outgrowed his U.S. Kids clubs. That's good. Longer irons, men's regular would be too stiff. Would senior or ladies club suit? Okay, so if he's in that, we'll say normally this happens around 13, 14 years of age, unless they're really, really tall. And it also happens to be when they start getting some athletic skills, or they've already, they're really honing them in at this time. And what we tend to do is the ladies' clubs tend to be better because they're not necessarily that strong yet. And the ladies' clubs run a little bit lighter than even the senior. It would really depend on the strength of the player. Now, that being said, there are sets out there what I call tweener sets, and they're tweeners because you're between that this becoming a teenager and not, right, and they're tweeners. So what they are is steel shafted type things or lighter graphite and smaller sets like the kids clubs were, and they're made for those 12, 13, 14 year olds, and they make smaller sets. Callaway, Wilson, who else? I think there's Stratas, maybe. I'm sure Ping makes one, and so I would, if you're looking for something just go right into, check out the tweener sets because they're a little shorter. The grips may be just the right size for the hands. If not, then ladies clubs. Scott's back. Hey, buddy. Great weather. Yes, I did. Maybe someone to experience with more. Okay, let's see. Hope you got out. Yep, 48-inch shafts, too much hype for us mortals. Or if someone wanted to experience, maybe, would a more stiff or more regular flex work if you were in the 85 to 90 range? So Scott, at the 85 to 90, and we'll say it's driver swing speed, you're running just below the regular range. Now, if you're an aggressive swinger, you bump up to the bottom. So yeah, 48-inch shaft, dude. That's crazy, and that's from a guy that's been experimenting and practicing. I wouldn't, for us mere mortals, just like you said, I would certainly not go there. And those guys out on the tour, they're not doing that either, except for a select few, but they've been practicing, so they have control over it. But I would look at uh, if you're going to go to 48 and you're in that, I would use the regular flex just to bring it around, right? Not necessarily the stiff, especially there. Well, Phil, since you recommended it, I will go look at it when we're all done. You see the crazy $700 AccuFlex shaft? I see that they have some secret. Yeah. Is it AccuFlex? Is that what they're calling it? Is that thing from Japan? I saw the TXG guys were looking at it, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Really? And I thought it was actually going to be a bit more, to be honest with you. But I can't fault the result the guys were getting with it. But it may be from a cost perspective. I'm sure they were given that shaft, but you don't see Matt or Ian throwing it in their club anytime soon either. And I don't know, maybe because of the pinkish look to it, or it freaks them out that it doesn't feel like they think it should feel. And Bryson is another one. If we might be just having to figure out a new golfing normal for some things going forward. There's my man from Sweden. There you go. Have you got snow now? I was looking to see if you have any snow, because I'm just absolutely happy with the fact that we got this warm weather. I'm not going to be happy with the way what's going to turn out later, though. All right. Do you know of any other suppliers of tools other than GolfWorks? As it won't let me onto the U.S. site. Really? Check Golf Mechanics, and it's Mechanix. Golf Mechanics. They do a lot. They make some of the stuff for GolfWorks. GolfWorks carries some of their stuff, but I would check Golf Mechanics. Mondaire is a really great guy. If you guys get the chance to read Wishon's Captain Clubmaker book, I should get him on here and see if he would talk with us. And he talks about Mondaire, the guy that started this, and he calls him the machine, the emperor of machines, or something along that lines. It's really quite cool. And he's a super nice guy. But I would look at Golf Mechanics. They have everything that you need there too. And it gets out pretty quick. He's out of Singapore, I believe. There you go. There you go. The Space Coast. William, what grit sandpaper to use to sand a bore through? So William, it's a multi-step process because of what I depend on what I get into, right? But I will use something in that 100, the 100 to 120 again to sand off the tip. Then what's going to happen is I'm going to hit the metal, then I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to go into a red belt or a blue belt that is that. It's the nylon. It's kind of like a nylon. It's almost, if you think about it, what a greenie looks like. Imagine that being 2 inches wide and a little thicker, only in red or blue. And those have different coarsenesses too. And I use the different coarsenesses based on what kind of shine I'm looking to get. Okay. And then I'm looking for, if you get onto a shinier bottom, that's a whole different ball of wax. You got to polish and go to a 1200 grit and the whole 9 yards in order to bring it back. It's a lot of work, but it comes out good. There's Adam or Matt. Sorry, buddy, I saw Adorno. Love the forgiveness of the 919 hot metals, but I am seeing low spin rockets with them and can't hold any greens. Could you recommend a more true lofted iron with similar forgiveness? Okay, so let's do a comparison in our heads here. 919 has we'll call a medium offset with a larger sole, and it's not a forge club, it's a cast club using the new material that they're actually figured out how to forge this year. And so if we're looking at something like that, you might look at, it has a little bit less offset, but the Wilson D7 forged has that wider sole, but a little bit less offset. A little bit more at the top than the bottom, to be sure. You could also look at the Maverick Max. It might do you right. It'll be a little bit more to the inside. I think you'd be fine with that. And I think ping, if I was to take a guess, ping and their not their players model, but the other one, I would take a look at those. Oh, geez. How about that? Maybe it's just a thing. Maybe it's just a thing for us. We're just having a good warm weather across the whole thing. Well, shaft weight wise, Cameron, that's kind of a choice. That has nothing to do, although swing speed is important to be sure, weight really doesn't come into an approach until you're talking about tempos and releases and whatnot, and then profiles. It's basically on what feels good for you and then what delivers the right, you're talking about the flights and the spins and whatnot. Very rarely does weight comes in as a feel perspective at the end. There's the snow. And there's William. And look at that, 4 minutes beforehand, and I am actually at the end of all my stuff. Normally I'm like 3 or 4 minutes over. How about that? All right. So a couple more things. Well, let's talk a little more golfy stuff, a little insider. I'll let you insider notes. All right. So remember we talked about these guys with I had to put all the lead tape on it and stuff. They finally fixed it, and I'm due to get a delivery of another one. I personally don't think that the weight distribution is going to be any different. It's just going to look better. Okay. It's going to look better in getting those. Now, I think I can tell you that the Mavericks, the Maverick drivers, the Maverick fairway woods have been so successful that they're basically selling out. Right? I've been told to remove my Sub-Zeros of both lofts and right-handed, that they're basically gone. Okay. And that's from a custom perspective. I'm sure they probably have a few still shelf, stock made, which means that the standard and the Max aren't far behind. Now, the Max was a very popular club this year, surprisingly enough, and surprisingly on tour, because they did not want to see the right hand of the fairway, or the left hand of the fairway, as the case may be. But they didn't want to see they didn't want to see a fade, and so these things were just missile launchers, and they're in there because of this popularity, because of the COVID, because of the uptick. They're basically selling through. So what does that mean from a business perspective? What that means is that they're going to go to the next model, because you either spend same X number of dollars and have a model that's getting ready into its second year, which you always see declining sales, or you start with a new model, generate some excitement, and make it go up. And what this will do is it will create yet another transition period. So now you'll have drivers, irons, and maybe one day it'll catch up. But I've seen the new ones, and holy cow. I will tell you this, that the new name is not the new name. It's an Epic, and it is an absolute killer of a golf club. It looks great. I'm always been, and it's back into its green. So for those of you guys that like the green, we're going to really like this one. I can't wait for the testing. It's not all out yet, but we'll see some more stuff coming further, right? But that's the best I can tell you for right now. All righty. Maybe we got a few more. Oh, we got back here. Indoor season. There you go. Well, that was your issue before, right? When you went lighter, you got a little steeper in that. So that's not not to be unseen. To keep going with it. There you go. Oh, Etta, yeah. Are you guys battening down there, Tallahassee? You guys is it going to come up that way and get you guys? Dude, whatever it is, stay safe, get inside beforehand. I know everybody tells you all that stuff. I've got family in Tampa. In fact, the last name, one of my cousin's last name is Sap. So be careful. Average path of 7 iron. A half an inch out. Jeez, oh, Pete, man. You are a machine. You're an absolute machine. Thank you. All righty. Oh, it's 6:30. I'm going to take about 2 more, and then we're going to go. Here we go. Jim, there we are. I have 2 iron sets, 1 steel, 1 graphite. Should they be the same length? Graphite iron sets a half inch longer for standard OEMs. What do you recommend? I absolutely believe they should be the same length. OEMs made them longer just so that the swing weights would come out the same, and it's purely in the shaft. The heads are going to be a little lighter, but the length takes it over. I am a pure believer that they need to be the same. Yes, it's going to be lighter when you cut them down. Yes, it's going to feel that way. Yes, you can add some tape to bring it back if that's what you want to feel, or you'd be surprised. Give it a shot. But the 2 sets ought to have completely different feels because they're completely different clubs. All right. But yes, I would do that. Okay. Oh, there's Christopher. I see him in there. All righty. One more. I'm a new golfer, 20-year-old ping driver the TI-25. Yep. And I love 41-inch shaft. What would you recommend in advance for the shaft advancements to the new driver? Well, the 41-inch shaft's pretty short, man. And that's cut down even for that club, right? They weren't that short back in the day. Even regular drivers were 43 inches. So going forward, number one, even if you're a new golfer, I would go get fit. You'd be surprised what a quick fitting would do for you in order to figure out what you need. And all the shafts all the drivers come with multiple shaft options, and I would check that out too. All right. Just go there and let a fitter fit you, or go try some of the different ones. And you will probably end up at that 44 and a half inch if you're a taller person, and enjoy it more. But do that. Jeff, I've been seeing that coming out, and I don't have the first information on it, so I really can't contact on it. I'd like for him to send me something, but that's what it is. Christopher, hopefully you're liking you're liking the clubs, buddy. Thanks for checking in. And Paul, there you go. Hopefully the rehab, you're ready to go just in time for the winter to set in. But you had some good time. I mean, if you're done and you had some time, this is not a bad time to be out there, is it? All righty. So, guys, it's 6:32. It's the time, and I appreciate it, guys. We are all over the map yet again. It never gets old, and we were answering questions like a machine gun, so that was awesome. And again, fellas and ladies, I appreciate it. And again, let your scores go low.